guys can't hear me eating, right?
No, I can't. You're very...
Okay, good.
Alright, I just hit the
Because I'm
button
eating.
to start.
Oh,
Okay, so
yeah.
we are live. Welcome to the HUMANE live stream. We try to do this every Thursday, and today's topic we'll be talking about net neutrality. And
okay, I'll start mine.
These guys are ready to chomp at the bit, so I'll let them start from their position.
All right.
All right, go ahead. Anybody can jump in.
And
okay, I'll start. Hey, hon, that's a nice website you got there. It'd be ashamed if I put it on a package no one can afford.
Oh boy. Yeah. For just so everyone knows, HUMANE last stream we were on Thursday. He talked about his website, and net neutrality was just what we're going to talk about here today. And Colt the Ham just made a bit of a point there in that creepy ass voice he did there.
Man, so
yeah, and I guess
I'm trying to go for the Jew voice.
That's not technically a straw man, but
okay, so I guess all right, so I mean, my position is, simply put, I am mostly neutral on the topic because we've had this net neutrality scare happen kind of a few times. Like, it was back in July, and then and it seemed to go nowhere, and so I just stopped giving a fuck. Like, after hearing about it a few times, like, I think a few times over the years, I just hear, oh, net neutrality might die, and people would go on and on and on about it, and I'm like, could it just go either way? You know? Just, Jesus. You know, it was just a pain in the ass to hear people go on and on about it. So I guess I might be a bit of a neutral guy here and just allow everyone to voice their thoughts, and we can have a discussion about it. So HUMANE is against net neutrality. Jossaman is kind of in favor, but I don't think he's like all that strongly in favor of it. I guess I'll be somewhat of a moderator. Colt the Ham is strongly in favor of net neutrality. Lonely Wolf, I don't know what your stance is on it, so I'll let you explain.
I'm all for net neutrality.
All right.
I love that voice you have.
Yep, that's Colt the Ham there with the avatar of whoever that is upside down, and
Stoneboy. You're Stoneboy.
And as for the dude with the wolf avatar, that's Lonely Wolf 1980. Very chill dude to talk to. So whoever wants to elaborate why you think the way they do, you go for it.
All right, I guess I'll go first. I think that that net neutrality is a good thing because, like, you can actually you shouldn't be charged for websites that you go on, but unless you're paying for a service that, like, $9 a month for Netflix. But if it's just for a free website with ads, I don't think you should pay for it.
Like YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay, because that's kind of what you sound like you were describing. And just like visiting the website, you're not like trying to interact with it. Like you just visit it. Like if I went to like YouTube and I just to check out what it's about. Like, are you talking about that, for instance, or more specific?
I guess more specific. If you're just like, if it's not a paid service, that if you're just a free website, to visit or watch videos on, like, unless you charge a service, I don't think you shouldn't be able to charge them for it. But that's just my opinion on it.
All right. HUMANE, you go next. If you're, wait, whoever wants to go next.
Yeah, I'm gonna have the least time here since I literally have only like 10 or 20 minutes. But here's my point against repealing net neutrality.
Mm-hmm.
What the ISPs are claiming is that, you know, they want to charge different rates for different speeds. But with net neutrality, there's only one speed. In reality, if we get rid of net neutrality, the ISPs will create a slow lane, and anyone who doesn't anyone who doesn't pay the bribe, they get put on the slow lane, and anyone who does pay the bribe, they get put on the normal lane, the lane we have right now. Yeah, that's my Kyle Kuklinski talking point.
All right, HUMANE, I guess since
All right,
kind
because
of
you guys kind of sound like, yeah, you guys kind of sound like the people who are reeing over college being expensive. Oh, I've got to pay for my own college. I've got to pay to use things. Really?
To clarify, I am not.
College is not a utility that everyone uses.
Neither is the internet.
It
is a service they are providing for you at a cost. Now, now, they are only allowed to charge you a certain amount because they have to treat it like a utility. You have to pay, you have to pay the same fee even if you're using more of the service. Even if it costs them more money, they have to treat it like a utility, like a phone service, right? Where hey, we have to provide you a phone call, right? This is the way that's right. This is the impression that people are getting is, oh, they're just treating it like the phone companies. Well, there used to be different prices for different calling plans. If you were calling long distance, that was more expensive for the phone provider to give you. It used to be extremely expensive, and so there was different prices for local and long distance. Now, thanks to the internet, that has kind of gone out the window, and those costs have gone onto your ISPs. They are now burdening the cost because they're ones digging under the ground and putting the pipelines in there to run your fiber and run your cables that are connecting all these different various people, and they can't charge based on how much you use their service, based on which services you're using, because some services cost them next to nothing to upload or to download the information. Because if you're just sending out an email, that's really, really small. It's a small amount of data going over the internet. But if you're streaming hours of Netflix or hours of YouTube, that's extremely expensive to their network, and they keep having to increase the size of their pipelines, and they can't charge for it because every time they increase the size of their pipeline, people just start downloading and uploading more. They're in a cycle right now where they're not being adequately compensated for what they're providing. And
I sincerely doubt that Comcast, Time Warner, or any of the other ISPs are seriously, near bankruptcy.
I never said that. Did I ever say that?
You never say. Well, you didn't say that.
I did not imply that they were losing money. I implied that they were not profiting.
No,
they were increasing pipelines,
money.
And then hey, everything's back to normal, and it's every bit of ground they're supposed to gain, they're not gaining. That is different from losing money.
And Ham, he said they weren't profiting. He was not saying that they were heading. He never implied that. He was
not
saying
a loss. They are treading water.
Yeah, they're treading water. That's what he said.
Yeah, and so is literally every other massive corporation on planet Earth. They're just barely treading water. And if you look at the salaries that their CEOs make, they're raking in millions and billions of dollars.
Now, when I say barely treading water, I don't mean they're just barely getting by. What I mean is they're putting massive amounts of money into getting new or building fiber in certain areas, and they're not getting the adequate return on that. Because when you invest into something, you don't expect to make the same amount that you put in. You expect to get more than you put in. Right now, they're getting about what they put in, and that's, well, then what incentive do they have to keep putting new stuff in? If it's a net zero for them, well, then they're just going to keep charging the same rates and giving you your current bandwidth. Whereas if they are able to charge more, they're able to actually gain a sizable profit when they put down these new pipelines. Well, then you'll start seeing speeds of higher, like right now, most places it's 50 to 100 megabytes as your top tier package through Comcast and things like that. Well, if they are
I'm
allowed
175 right now.
Okay. So that's within the range of 50 to 100, isn't that?
No,
you said
it's
75,
higher
right?
by 75.
Yeah. You said 175. My mistake. Okay, so I'm not sure where you are, but I thought you said 75. Sorry.
So I pay for different speeds. So why should? So I already pay for different speeds. Why should we get rid of net neutrality?
Isn't that exactly what you were fighting against? You were saying, oh, they're going to put people in the slow lane. Isn't that the same thing as there's different packages, right? You can pay for like a 20 megabit speed, a 50 megabit, 100 megabit.
They're putting so you're agreeing that they're So I'm
they
paying
already
it
do that
for a different speed. But that's me. I'm the consumer. I'm the consumer that's, you know, contracting Comcast. I want to access YouTube at that same speed. But if Comcast decides, hey, we're going to put YouTube in the slow lane, so I'm all of a sudden not getting the speed that I paid for.
Yeah.
No, I'm not getting that speed. When I get to YouTube, it's, you know, maybe at 5 megabits per second. That's not the speed I asked for.
So your position is that businesses shouldn't be able to run the way that they think is best for them. They should be able to run. They should be run the way that's best for you. Who owns the internet? The internet service providers or you? Who is in charge?
It's a utility. It's owned by the people.
Okay, so it's owned by the people. So that's the issue that you guys run into that I don't think is. I think that's how this actually works.
I mean, I'm not gonna. I don't pay for different tiers of water. I want my water to be, you know, pure, clean, potable. You know, no lead in it.
You're not even getting that from your utility, but it
is a utility.
I understand it is a utility, but there's not different versions of water. You get the same crappy water that everybody else gets that's full of chlorine and full of chemicals. That's completely different subject because there's not different options of water. You're limited to whatever your utility provides, which is usually pretty crappy. And usually people get their own water
internet is
filter
comparable to shitty water. Fast internet is comparable to clean water.
Yeah, all right. Wait, hang on a second. Okay.
What? You're comparing something that doesn't exist. There is no multiple water revenue sources.
There's shit water, and there's clean water. Like,
we're discussing net neutrality, by the way, just for Lord of Cancer. We're discussing net neutrality. You for or against it?
Okay, but you're describing a situation that does not exist with current water utilities. But the internet is a separate.
The internet is separate because of Festus. I mean, Flint, Michigan, their water is dog shit.
So you want the internet to be run the same way that Flint, Michigan's water system is? Okay,
that's not what he said. That's not what he said.
I'm trying to say that they are two separate types of industries. You were comparing the two together.
I want our internet to be run like how our water.
Flint, Michigan was a utility.
Run by the government, not run by some private organization.
Flint, Michigan was a utility, and you just said the internet is a utility, and now you're saying Flint, Michigan ruined their water supply, and the internet should be run in the same manner. That's idiotic.
Flint, Michigan was paid like $2 million to.
It was a utility.
To start.
You brought up this analogy. Hey,
how about you shut the fuck up and let me talk and let me finish my point. Flint, Michigan was bribed by this private company to start pumping from the Flint River instead of, you know, tapping from the Detroit water supply. This private company, you know, they didn't do shit to make sure the water was, you know, safe, was drinkable, and now there's toxic waste pouring out of those faucets in Flint, Michigan. That's what happens when you get private business interests involved in utilities.
Flint, Michigan is not a private utility. It is a public utility. It was a public utility that was corrupted. So your entire argument doesn't make any sense. Flint, Michigan's water problem.
It was not a private company. By a private business.
That is a public utility. That's why it's the only one.
It was no longer run by the government.
If it was a private utility, there would be competition. There would be other providers of that utility. But it is a public utility. They were the ones contracted
That's
to
no
provide
longer
that
run by the government. When the government ran the Flint, Michigan water, the water was clean. Now, since the private business has taken over, it's now shit. It's now toxic waste.
The government hired them to do their job.
That's because of nepotism, because of corruption, private business corruption.
So okay, this is a completely different topic, but are you pro or anti-free market?
It's the exact same topic.
Are you pro or anti-free market?
Medium.
No, sorry. This is I'm saying this question I'm asking you kind of sets up the entire perspective on this scenario. Are you pro or against free markets?
Depends on what you mean by free markets.
Free markets as in private sector can do things better than the public sector. I don't know how else
it depends on the
Oh, okay. So private companies are always bad,
area.
Except in areas where you
okay. For instance, I want the private businesses, the private industry, to build my car.
Why? Because they're corruptible.
Because different manufacturers build cars with different points, with different intentions. Because a Dodge Charger is going to be a lot faster than anything a fucking Chevrolet makes. At least that was it was during the 70s.
Well, why doesn't the government just take over the automotive industry and then provide us all of our cars like a utility?
Have you seen the Soviet-Russian cars built by the government?
My point.
They're shit. But
exactly my point.
But let's go to healthcare.
But why do you think why do you think automobiles
has the worst healthcare system in the entire world?
Okay,
bar none, there's no question.
Okay,
if we go to Scandinavia or Canada, they have a public healthcare system. They have a single payer system, and they work fantastic. They have better results than we do.
Then why do they come here for our medical services?
We have 45,000 people who die every year due to lack of health care. Scandinavia
and Canada doesn't have anybody that dies.
The single payer system has zero. They have zero deaths due to lack of
right? Canada has zero deaths. The EU has zero deaths. All right. Wow, this is amazing. They
due to lack of
solved the problem. No. They have zero deaths because their healthcare system is so amazing that so the people who leave those places and come to the U.S. to have their surgeries, those are just fucking insane people because they're leaving the security of having everything provided to them to pay money to have our incompetent U.S. system take care of them. All right, then.
The problem with the U.S. system is that
it's run by private industry, and you want everything to be the public sector.
Based on the size of your wallet.
You want everything to be the public sector.
If you're a billionaire, you have the best healthcare system in the entire planet in America. But if you're a poor schmuck like me who works at a factory, 9-to-5 job, barely paying bills, we have the worst system in the world.
So it's all about what benefits you as opposed to what is the correct way to, or what is the most fair system. It's whatever benefits you the most.
You realize that healthcare is a service, right?
Wait. Let's actually.
Who
I want to
that
get
question directed at? Was that directed at Ham or at me?
And also,
that was directed at the person who was in favor of.
Here's the biggest problem with private industry in healthcare. They make money.
So private industry is good in automobiles, so private industry is the only way to do automobiles, but healthcare has to be public sector.
Then
the internet has to be public sector.
Venezuela's government healthcare system failing and falling apart?
Wait a minute, Lord of Cancer. I want to get everyone's stance on net neutrality clear. Lord of Cancer, or against net neutrality?
I'm staying neutral at the moment as I'm trying to decide my stance on it. I don't think internet is a right. I think it is a service, and internet should not be free. You should pay for what you get. I'm sorry, if you don't like your internet connection, then save up some money and get a better internet, or get a better job to pay for better internet.
Sorry guys, the first time I tried to come on, something weird, it wouldn't load up, so I just
Alright. Aspie.
Alright. Hey,
you're against net neutrality, correct? You're against it?
Yeah. I think the internet would do better if Because if you look at it, government monopoly never works out very well, and the internet was fine before 2015. Net neutrality is not something that's relatively old; it's actually relatively new. It was implemented in 2012 by Barack Obama, and I believe that if the internet is unregulated, people are like, oh, my Netflix is going to be and stuff is going to be where I'm gonna have to pay extra to have Netflix, and I'm like, listen, the free market will handle that. I mean, it may take a little while, but I don't think people will buy a internet connection where they have to have where they have to buy where they have to do that stuff.
Yeah, that's
all
my
right.
position.
So, okay.
I'm gonna listen in because I'm looking for sources for a report I'm doing. So
yeah. All right, and Lonely Wolf, I want to get your stance on it because you've been sitting here for a minute, all quiet and patient, while we've all been screeching at one another. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've kept my hands occupied.
All right.
It's hard to because I'm trying to. I guess I'm following Humane Mind and Cold to Ham, so I'm following the two arguments, and then it's kind of. So now I'm kind of a bit lost on that.
Torn?
Yeah, a little bit because I'm hearing like two different opinions. Mostly, I guess the importance of having a internet service is I think it's the ultimate in the democratization of knowledge. It's the way in which the number of things in which we can learn kind of new skills, especially for the elderly. Because I know that's how my father, like once he retired, it was a way for him to keep his mind active. So there's something very important, and especially with people like me, because I'm going to admit that I enjoy, like, that's why I do YouTube, so I can have company with other people, because I don't really interact with people very much in the so-called real world.
Yeah, but so my contention is that the free market does it better than the public sector. So and yet people who have that kind of position are for some reason arguing in favor of net neutrality, which moves a private sector industry into the public sector, which doesn't make any sense. At least not in my mind. I don't understand why automobiles, like Colt of Ham was saying, why automobiles, they suck when the government runs them, but they're amazing when the free market takes care of it. But for some reason, healthcare sucks when the free market has control of it. But it would be so amazing if the government. I'm like,
because of the profit motive. That's the reason. Okay.
So profit motive works in automobiles, but it does not work in health. Give me a couple minutes
to explain. The reason why the Soviet communist-made cars sucked is that they had no profit motive. They had no idea what was making a good car. They made shitty two-cycle engines. They had to mix oil and gas together and rock the car back and forth. They thought that was great, and it was cheap enough for them to make. And
so you think removing profit motive? You
realize that the Soviet cars, like the Lada, that were exported, were better than the ones that they built at home, right?
But
yeah, I sincerely doubt that. And here's why the profit motive is dangerous.
Okay, wait.
Here's why the profit motive is dangerous in the healthcare industry.
Hang on a second, man.
Hang on a second.
So,
go ahead.
So let me see if I understand your position. You're saying the profit motive is the reason why the automobile industry works the way it does in the United States. Now you're going to get into the medical, right? And you're going to show us why the profit motive is bad, even though you just made a case for profit motive being good. Am I understanding?
Okay, it's two different things. It's if you make a shitty car, maybe some people will die because no seat belts, no airbags, build cars that go 90 in a second. Those cars are death trap waiting to happen. But that's almost irrelevant. That's not the reason why. The profit motive is good in the automotive industry, but it's bad in the healthcare industry because in the healthcare industry, the way you make a profit is by denying healthcare. This is true. This is actually true. There is a case where
Okay, hang on a second.
A woman.
You make money by.
Hey! Shut the fuck up. There's a case where a woman got hit with skin cancer. This is a really famous case. You can read up about it.
Are you talking about insurance?
She was denied health insurance.
Yeah. Okay.
To
that's the
cancerous skin lesions, which was actually acne, and she died because of that.
Okay. So your problem is with the insurance industry. If this was
a single-payer healthcare system, she would have gotten health care. She would have got her cancer treated. Sick help.
Okay, so your problem seems to be with the healthcare insurance, not the health.
One at a time.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, what if you talk out of time?
Okay, I'll let you go.
She probably would have still died. You know, it's a 50-50. Even under the government healthcare, she probably would have died.
No, she wouldn't. She would have gotten healthcare. She would have gotten treatment.
It's also, you think of bureaucracy, you want the people running the DMV to run your health care? Really? People?
Yeah,
Yes, I do. I do want the people in Scandinavia who run their healthcare system to run my healthcare system.
Scandinavia.
Okay.
Scandinavia is pretty bad, too. They have long wait times. She probably would have died waiting.
Okay. All right, so...
The wait times are for elective surgery. If you need cancer, you get care. Because in any system, you have to ration care. In our system, we ration care by the size of your wallet.
Yes.
In single-payer system, we ration care by need. Who needs care the most?
Okay. So
Does a girl who has a toothache need care as much as a cancer patient? No, the cancer patient gets help first before the girl with a toothache.
So you are all for the from each according to their ability, to each according to their need, but just in healthcare, not in any other. I mean, not in other sectors, right?
I don't see how Marxism even applies.
That's what you just said. You said healthcare is provided based on need. How is that not socialism and Marxism? I don't under.
Because it's within a capitalist system.
It's according to our ability to provide healthcare to each person's need. That is, and I don't understand how you basically said the Marxist argument for healthcare, and I don't even think you realized it until I pointed it out.
And how should we ration care according to you? To the billionaire's daughter who has a toothache, or to the poor schmuck with cancer?
Because for every billionaire who pays for their surgery and pays out the nose for their surgery, well, guess what? That means the hospital has more money. That means they can provide more of a service.
Well, you're objectively wrong, because we have 45,000 people who die every year due to lack of health care.
Yeah, and they're the people
Scandinavia has zero.
And they're called veterans.
You do realize that the ration healthcare thing is a bad idea. Have you seen Cuba's hospitals for the rich and the poor?
Hang on.
You take a good look at the
how about you look at the hospitals in Scandinavia, in Iceland, in Western Europe?
And you take a good look at the one for the poor.
A very low population.
But even
May I finish talking?
Yeah. Lower cancer. Sorry.
What I was saying is, you take a good look at the Cuban hospitals where the 99%. They are run down and in bad shape, but take a good look at the one for the 1%. There is no waiting lines, and they're pretty much up to date, and they have the latest technology. While the government gets the best healthcare, while the people, they barely get anything. And I'm sorry, but I cannot afford to live in a society where Medicare is rationed. I need my ADHD medications to function. And that is something I cannot have rationed.
Who pays for health care?
Rationing medicine. If you think rationing medicine is a good idea, it's not a good idea.
Well, to be fair,
I can't function.
Yeah, hang on a second. To be fair, every healthcare system is going to have to ration in one way or another, because there is a limit to the amount of healthcare that can be provided. So we're in agreement on that.
We're in agreement.
The question is, how is that healthcare rationed out? And so, Cult of Ham is under the impression that it's according to who needs it the most, whereas But the problem I have with that is the same problem I have with anything that involves that sort of mentality when it comes to an industry, is once you're out of the supply, you cannot replenish that supply. So, hey, we have we'll just say we have $100 million of healthcare to provide. We provide that to who needs it the most, and whoever needs it the most can't pay any of it back. We spend our $100 million of healthcare, and now we have $0 of healthcare to go around. If we did it the other way around, where it was based on a profit motive, and we start off with our $100 million of healthcare to provide, and we charge people for that healthcare, we take that $100 million, and even if we get back just at cost, where people are paying exactly what it costs us to provide that healthcare, we gave $1 million worth of healthcare out, we got $1 million back, so that way we can provide another set of $1 million or $100 million worth of healthcare. It's a cycle that is sustainable. What you are referring to is a cycle that isn't sustainable.
Pretty good point. How efficient are the two systems? Well, if we look at the system, at the healthcare system, the private healthcare industry was averaging about 50 to 60% of the money that they bring in spent on healthcare, where everything else went to overhead. With Obamacare, they had to spend a minimum of 80% on healthcare.
Okay.
If we compare that to what Medicare pays for healthcare, they spend 98% on healthcare with only 2% overhead cost.
Wait.
That is why the profit motive in healthcare is bad, because most of the money is spent on profit.
Okay,
not healthcare.
You just switched the conversation. I don't know if you realize this. Okay, Medicare pays out money to healthcare providers. So what are you talking about with a healthcare provider using 60% of their budget to provide healthcare, as opposed to...
minimum of 80% now.
And they're required to do 80% now. So basically they had to slash their administration fees and all that sort of thing, right?
And they don't pay the insurance
But you
company.
talked about
they pay
Medicare.
The hospitals. They pay the doctors. They pay the pharmaceutical companies for the drugs. They entirely skip the private healthcare providers.
Okay, but so you're saying Medicare paying, and you're talking about how much the percentage that Medicare pays for those specific purposes. That's not providing the actual care, because Medicare is paying the hospital, and the hospital is providing the actual care.
Yeah, they're skipping the insurance companies. The insurance companies
so your problem with medical is the insurance companies.
Pay for the doctors.
So your problem is with the medical insurance companies, not the healthcare in general. Is that?
My problem is with the healthcare insurance companies.
Yes, that's my problem with it as well. But you can't. So that's if you were to cut out the insurance and just do regular healthcare, you cannot get a profit off of that business without providing a service. You can't charge people for cancer treatment and then be like, okay, have fun. That's what insurance companies do. They charge people.
Well, and that's what Medicare will do.
Wait. Medicare will charge people and then not provide anything?
No, they'll take our tax money and they'll pay the hospitals for their service. Well, they also negotiate with pharmaceutical industries.
That sounds like an extra step.
Because if you're just a small group of people, you really can't negotiate a very good price with the pharmaceutical industry.
What?
But if you have the entire country, the entire market behind you, and you're in negotiations, you can get a pretty good price. We pay the highest pharmaceutical prices on the entire planet. There was a recent amendment that even Ted Cruz supported that would import drugs from Canada at half the cost to the consumer.
Okay.
Sometimes even a third of the cost. And in fact, their drugs are better than ours. They have tighter regulations up there.
Okay, I'm not understanding how that is like, that doesn't sound like something I would be against either, but that doesn't sound like a situation where you're advocating for government control of that industry.
Blame the FDA for our bad drugs.
Yeah.
So it sounds to me... sounds to me like your problem...
to lower regulations.
Okay, so you're talking about importing drugs from other countries because they're cheaper. That is an example of more competition to a market, which I'm in favor of. But you also...
what does Canada have? They have well, technically they have a public option, but no private insurance company can compete with the single payer healthcare system, because the single healthcare system is just that much better.
Okay, you're jumping around a bunch here, and I'm trying to isolate individual arguments. So you're for competition when it comes to prescriptions, but you're not for competition when it comes to providing healthcare.
It's not really competition.
It sounds like your criticisms of healthcare in general are with the healthcare insurance companies, and you, instead of talking about insurance companies specifically, you just want the government to handle everything, as opposed to curbing out that insurance industry, or providing competition in that insurance industry.
I'm pretty sure you're not even following my train of thought.
No, because you keep jumping around. That's what I'm trying to stick to one area.
I'm not really jumping around. I'm telling you that, and I'm telling you facts about how much cheaper the single healthcare system is.
But no. You haven't gotten to that. You've criticized healthcare insurance, and you've compared insurance to what Medicare and Medicaid provide. Or maybe you just said Medicare. I'm not sure which one. As far as my mind, they're both the same and they're both terrible. But that's my perspective. What I'm trying to say is you're comparing insurance with something that's not insurance. And you're saying, hey, look, this thing that's not insurance is good, and this thing that is insurance is bad. Now, I would agree with you. Insurance is not for... Insurance should not be the primary reason or means by which we pay for our health care. I'm against insurance. I mean, I do the, what's that called? A health savings plan. That's what I'm using right now. I don't do insurance. I have a health savings plan. I think insurance is a bad idea all around. It doesn't matter which, look at the industries in the United States where costs have been going up consistently when all the other industries the costs have been going down. You talk about, like, okay, I'm going to do two examples here. The cost of a computer in the 1980s versus the cost of a computer now. And the cost of a house in the 1980s versus the cost of a house now. Even with the bubble, the subprime mortgage bubble burst, the cost of houses are still higher today than they were back in the 1980s, even though they're of similar... It's not like we've advanced so rapidly with our house manufacture, and like, oh, look at these, everybody's got a smart house. No, everybody has about the same kind of house they would have had back in the 80s, except for it's 2 to 3 times more expensive. When you're talking about computers, thousands of times cheaper. The same...
Well, we got about 2 to 3 times more
computers used to be
people.
tens of thousands of dollars in the 80s, and you can buy them now for $25. That's what a Raspberry Pi is.
Hang on a second, guys. We've gotten so far away from the original topic.
Yeah, I get that, but this is a...
Yeah, it's related, you would say?
It's related because we need to establish free market versus
government can't do
public.
nothing right, versus the idea that government can't do... Well, government can do something right. Something's right. Because I'm not a socialist. Scandinavia's not socialist. I believe in a mixed market economy.
Oh.
Okay, so you believe in a mixed market economy, and that's why you think the internet should be a public utility.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
I guess maybe that's
So
a
I
whole
guess
different
that's-
discussion another time.
Yeah, okay, because that's what we needed to establish, is I think the free market can do the internet better than the government, but he thinks
I will be back.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay.
To do some stuff.
He'll be back
Okay.
in a sec. All right.
I'm sorry about dominating the conversation a bit, but I just kind of want to get my 2 cents in, since I'm literally about to head off to work.
All right.
All right.
So his perspective is some areas the government can do better, and he thinks the internet is one of those areas. All right. So I know, because I think that's what ultimately this issue is whether you think the free market can do something better than the government, and whether this is an area where the free market should be allowed to do what it does best. I'm of the impression that this is an area where the free market can do it better. In fact, I'm of the impression that the free market does it better and has a huge track record of doing everything the government does better than the government does. Because I think the profit motive gives them a reason to do it better. Without that profit motive, you can provide, you're like, hey, what other choice do you have? I mean, it's either this or nothing. That's what happens when you remove the profit motive.
Not necessarily. The government is interested, in a democratic society, is interested to provide the best service possible, because that's how you get reelected. And we all know how desperate politicians are to get reelected.
But that doesn't. Yeah, that's not historically accurate. Politicians get elected for promises, and they don't have to deliver on those promises. Look at education. That's a huge example of, politicians get elected. I'm going to fix the education system. We're going to dump more money into it. And yet every year, our education system is worse and worse. Our children are coming out stupider and stupider. Right now, a high school diploma doesn't mean jack shit.
Because they're not doing any actual investment in our education
system. And yet those people get reelected continually because they say, I'm going to fix education. I'm going to fix education. They get reelected and reelected.
Because who backs them? Major corporations.
But that is counter to your previous argument where you're saying politicians have an incentive to get things right.
I said in a democratic system. We don't really have a democratic system anymore. It's an oligarchy. It's effectively an oligarchy.
Okay, I think we can agree on that. It's effectively an oligarchy, although I would contest where that oligarchy gets its power from. But
if you're in agreement that it's the major corporations, then we agree.
No, I don't think it's major corporations.
Well, then you just flat out wrong.
All right, let's just I want to hand the floor to over other people because I think
we've been dominating. Oh, yeah. So
okay, Aspie, what's your stance? Do you feel like you've effectively explained like where you come from on net neutrality, or do you want to elaborate further on why you feel that way?
Yeah, I think, did you guys already talk about the small country ISPs? Because the internet is internationally was meant to be free of government rule over, and that the the internet came from being free, and the internet came from a place that was it was like this thing that was free of everything.
Your mic is horrible.
You're cutting out there, but I think I know what you're talking about. So you're talking about
robot mode.
Let me. Can you hear me better now?
Okay.
Yeah, much better. Much better.
Let me turn the gain up real fast. Yeah. Or maybe I can put the microphone right here. There we go. That sounds better. Basically, what I was going to say is that the reason why big companies like Google and so on and so forth can like net neutrality is that it's easier for them to keep a monopoly and regulate the internet in a way, and basically to continue their social engineering campaign. Yes, I got my tinfoil hat on. Shut up. But anyway, I think that when the internet is free, when the internet is left back to when there's less monopoly on the internet, more people will be able to spread their ideas better and so on and so forth. The thing with net neutrality is people go, oh, it prevents viewpoint discrimination. No, actually, actually net neutrality helps viewpoint discrimination. Now, I'm not going to lie, there's some problems with getting rid of net neutrality. Obviously, some companies might pay you to extra dollars to stream Netflix and Hulu because they're not in bed with Netflix and Hulu, or they don't have a business partnership. But at that point, if you look at the big picture, as I said before, the free market will handle that, and will and over time it will even.
You started to cut out there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I would like.
Could someone translate? Because I don't think I understood a thing he said.
Yeah. Actually, I wanted to bring up something because Aspie kind of brought this up. Not to this article to my attention, but this is from August 9th of 2007. This, I don't know if any of you guys remember this. AT&T censors Pearl Jam and then says, whoops. Because and this has been by the net neutrality proponents. I wanted to get anyone who's against net neutrality's response to this. Lyrics performed by Pearl Jam criticizing then President George W. Bush have not been should not fuck off. I'll deal with it later. Not you guys, you're okay. A company spokesman acknowledged Thursday AT&T through its Blue Room Entertainment site offered a webcast of the band headlining performance Sunday at whatever that is in Chicago. The event was shown with a brief delay so the company could bleep out excessive profanity or nudity, and basically there's some lyrics that got censored by them as a result. Actually, I think if you got, I'll copy paste and show the link. So I just wanted to get.
Is he doing for years?
Well, they do censor out swearing, but this has more to do with if there were political lines. Oh. All right, I'll post the article if you guys want to read further on it.
Were they hosting this concert?
Let me go back and see. They were Blue Room offers live. Yeah, so I guess you could say yeah they were. Monitors hired by AT&T through a vendor went further and cut out 2 lines from a song to the tune of Pink Floyd's "Another Brick in the Wall." One was George W. Bush. Or George Bush, "Leave This World Alone." The second time it was sung, the other was George Bush, "Find Yourself Another Home," according to the band's website. I left a link in the group Hangout chat if you want to read up further on this. I do remember seeing a number of other examples, but that's the only one I can remember. Wait a minute. Wait, HUMANe, you just put some in the group chat.
Oh, no, that's
all right,
side conversation, not net neutrality, but...
Oh, okay. I guess we can have a live discussion with Jossman on that another time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's better if I get a... Plus, I can research.
Yeah, okay. Aspie is... okay, they both left us, and they're probably not coming back, so... I guess there's a little more room in the Hangout.
Okay.
Who else is here?
So I think this kind of piggybacks off of Aspie's point, because this is the fear that everyone has, is that ISPs will start determining what you can and cannot have access to. And that's an example of an ISP, although a cell phone provider, AT&T at the time, limiting content or restricting content to their users. Now the thing is, if you look at the article, AT&T had a major backlash over that. That's why this is news. That's why this is newsworthy. It came out as news, and then they started losing business. People were like, "Hey, as soon as my contract's up, I'm leaving AT&T. I'm going to someone who's gonna treat me fairly." And people act as if that wouldn't happen without net neutrality, as if if Time Warner doesn't provide me the service that I need, and I'm paying them to provide me, like I wouldn't look for other options. That other options wouldn't present themselves. It'd be like, hey. That's entirely the purpose of competition. Is you'd see a different business doing it wrong and making their customers, and you go to their customer review page and everybody hates them and like, oh, this company's terrible. Somebody make a new company. Well, somebody sees that as dollar signs, and they're going to set up a new ISP in your area, and they're going to provide a service that does right by their customers. And even if the service is less.
Wait, hey man, are you in? So you'd have the free market do it, right? That's what I'm getting at. The free market. Yeah. Okay. So, Matthew, go ahead, respond to that, and then I'll let Lonely Wolf get a word in.
Well, the problem with the free market in this instance is there aren't any other ISPs other than the one or two that are in your area. Like in my area, AT doesn't exist here. The only ISP that offers anywhere near the internet access that I want is Comcast, if I want more than 25 megabits per second, I have to stay with Comcast, no matter how shitty they get, no matter how expensive I get. And it may reach a point where I just have to drop them all together and just get one of the slower, shitty ISPs.
Yes. So you think that once, again, this is something I stated earlier, is the profit incentive isn't quite there because companies are sinking vast amounts of dollars to make their networks better, and they're not seeing the profit off of that. Because the more bandwidth they give people, the more bandwidth people use, and you know there is no way to charge them based on the bandwidth given their current models and that sort of thing. And granted, this isn't a rule of net neutrality that they have to charge a single fee for their for how many megabits per second. But it's what net neutrality has. It's a side effect of net neutrality as opposed to something that's blatantly stated in net neutrality. Is that internet service providers want to charge you just one monthly fee, and then give you the bandwidth. But
all right,
if they got rid of net neutrality, it'd be like, okay, so here's your regular bandwidth. Unless you want to use Netflix all the time, unless you want to do 10-hour streams of Netflix. Well, then we're going to have to charge you a little extra for that sort of thing. But right now, they can't do that sort of thing. They can't restrict based on a specific site. They have to say, well, if you want more bandwidth, we'll have to charge you more for more bandwidth. And it puts them in a weird position where they want to get the most money while providing the best service, right? And in order to do that, they've determined their pricing for different packages, right? But somebody who doesn't use Netflix all the time, that just wants to use the regular internet and all that sort of thing, it doesn't make sense for Comcast or whoever to charge them $200 when they're not using the internet all that often. So if they want that higher market, like, okay, so those people who are using Netflix 10 hours a day, every day of the year, we want to be able to charge them more money. But right now they don't have a way of doing that. Because if they increase the package of the megabits per second, well, that hurts their other market, the people who aren't using Netflix all day. They're trying to balance these two different markets using the same payment schedule. They're using a one-size-fits-all where there's clearly two different markets.
It's entirely irrelevant because if you want good streaming internet, you have to buy a faster package. You have to buy something like 150, 175 to get really good streaming services.
Well, so here's the thing.
Your point is entirely moot. If you're just a casual user, you can suffer with 25 or 50 megabytes.
Okay, so even if I buy the lowest possible package, like say it's 20 megabits per second in my area, and I still spend 10 hours a day on Netflix every day, isn't that a problem for it costs them for every transaction over their network. They're sending data back and forth. It costs Comcast money. But should they charge me the same rate?
They're only transferring to you 25 megabytes per second.
Yes.
So you're going to get really shitty streaming service. You're going to have lots of buffering, but you're going to get 25 megabytes per second.
Yes.
If you want smooth streaming, then you get a higher package.
Okay, but my point is, they're charging me the same rate as someone who just has the bottom tier internet connection just to check their emails with grandma and that sort of thing. But they are specifically prohibited from charging us differently based on what we are using it for. Right?
And?
So I am way more expensive than grandma who is paying the same price for my service. So we're both using the same price of service.
Still just paying
I'm using it a lot more. I'm costing them money. The other person
you're
isn't.
Still paying for the same access. Even if you squander it, you're still paying for it. And if you use it to the max, You're paying for it. You're getting your money's worth. What's the problem?
The problem is utilities cannot differentiate these two markets when there's clearly two different markets.
No, they're the exact same market. In this market, they both want 25 megabytes per second. That's the market.
So, all right. They run their own business, but they're not allowed to say how it runs, right? Is that so? You're saying because they're paying for the 20 megabits per second, providers cannot change up how they actually charge people. Like we could, what I think would make more sense in my mind is if they charge based on how much you actually use, because that's what they used to do before they went to how many megabits per second and all that sort of thing. Which I think that is.
Yeah,
I'm not 100%
don't you remember how awful that system is?
How is that awful?
How bad for the consumer that is?
How is that bad for a consumer? You pay for what you use. Right?
I pay. I could cut my phone bill in half right now if I decided to go with, just a gigabyte of mobile data every month. But no, I pay, an additional $60 a month to pay for unlimited data.
Okay.
And I'm currently using my unlimited data right now.
All right. Okay.
I am paying for that service.
So, compare this to restaurants where you can pay a fee for a Happy Meal or whatever, or you can go to an all-you-can-eat restaurant. Now, when you go to an all-you-can-eat restaurant, and if you're one of the bigger people who gets like 4 or 5 plates, right? Usually, all-you-can-eat restaurants, even though they are all-you-can-eat, they do have limits, and they will ban customers from coming in if they, you just say, oh, they're just getting their money's worth. But at the point where, hey, you've gone in this restaurant and you've had 6 plates when the average person only has 1 or 2 plates, you're probably going to be kicked out of that restaurant and not allowed to come back in.
Well,
and I am completely in agreement with that.
Well,
so there's two different types of restaurants.
The average person has 1 or 2 plates.
Yes.
Even if you have a person that costs them an arm and a leg and their firstborn daughter, the average person is not. The last time I went to a Chinese buffet,
that's with restaurants. Yes, that's with restaurants. That's not the case on the internet. The case on the internet is the average user is using Netflix. The average user is using streaming services, YouTube, Netflix, Pandora. Like, my grandpa doesn't know anything about the internet, and he still uses Pandora, like, all the time. Like,
then
it's
those
constantly streaming. Yeah. So this
ISPs
is the average
can
user.
Charge higher for different rates.
The average user is the overeater at a buffet right now for these internet service providers.
Well, then the ISPs can just raise prices overall.
Yeah, that will lose them business with the people who don't use that sort of thing.
Well, then they can suffer with less profit.
You're limiting their options to deal with the situation.
So?
Andy, this
is the point of regulations. It prevents predatory business practices.
Predatory? What's so predatory about, hey, these people are costing us more money, we want to charge them appropriately to how much they're using or how much they're costing us, and those people aren't, so we want to give them a deal.
Streaming Netflix actually cost for an ISP?
Oh, I don't know.
Probably not much.
How can you say that? How can you say streaming gigabytes of data every second is less costly than sending an email?
Gigabytes every second? That's like downloading, 16K video, like 8 of them at the same time.
No, gigabytes per second on a network, not gigabytes per second per user. How many people, like, if everybody sent an email, like, everybody on this stream, like, this stream right now is more expensive than an email, right? At least for ISPs. If everybody on a single ISP sent an email at a second versus everybody on the same ISP streaming Netflix, Which one would cost them more?
Who are you actually talking about? The customers, like you and I, getting a service from the ISP, or the individual websites?
No, I'm talking about the customers.
Who are you talking about?
Talking
websites
about customers.
Or the customers like you and I?
Customers connecting to websites.
So just the customers.
Just the customers for now, because that's what we're trying to focus on.
Okay, so they
them
pay
more.
for a certain rate. They get that certain rate. What's the deal?
The deal is they don't get to choose. If a different model would help make them more money or make more sense given their market, they're not allowed to switch to that different model. They have to use the same model everybody else is using because they're treated like a utility. And that restricts them from doing something that could be more beneficial to customers and them. Yeah.
How is getting charged per megabyte or per gigabyte beneficial to us?
It's not beneficial to me. It's beneficial to the guy who only uses the internet like maybe 5 minutes a week. It's more beneficial to them because they get a cheaper price.
Yeah,
it's not beneficial to me because I'm going to get charged based on what I use.
You use the internet on an almost constant basis.
Yeah.
They'll severely hurt us, right?
So
I'm
okay. So you're against net neutrality because it's gonna impact you. So it's whatever works best for you seems to be your criteria for how things should be run.
No. I pay 150 megabytes.
Okay.
Download speed, because I do use the internet that much. I want a faster, more reliable.
And you don't want to be charged based on how much you use. You just want to be charged based on how fast you can connect to things. Because if they switch to based on how much you use, then you would be upset right now because you use a lot of it, and you don't want that to happen. But even though there's other people who would see an extreme benefit in that model.
How?
Because they don't use it as much as you do.
Exploit that, the newly added speed, I guess. They're going to still only use, the bare minimum amount of data and speed.
Somebody who only uses the internet maybe once a week to check the news or send emails, are they really concerned about how fast their internet is? Rather than
no. That's why they pick the slowest rate.
But they're still being charged more than they're using, and you're being charged less than you're using. And you're saying that that's how it should be.
I'm paying more than...
I get that you're paying more for a better connection, but you are using more data than those other people. So you are getting a benefit out of this.
And I'm paying for it.
You are getting a more of a benefit than you're paying for, and they are getting less of a benefit than they're paying for, and you're saying that's how it should be.
They're getting what they want.
No, they're not.
They're getting the slowest internet speed, and that's perfectly fine for them.
And so, but you're
and I pay more per month to get a faster connection, so I can watch Netflix and YouTube without having to wait for it to buffer.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you guys. I'm reading this case. There's this court case, this hilarious court case, where called Maddall v. Tom, which was an 8-0 court case in favor of the defendant or the plaintiff, because basically, here's the story. There's this Asian punk band that tried to get the name of their band trademarked, but they couldn't do it because under the Latham Act, don't ruin it. Under the Latham Act, they couldn't get it because of the disparagement clause. Basically, they couldn't put a name that disparaged a minority group. But the court struck it down. You know what the name of the group was? The Slants.
Yeah, that is pretty fucking stupid.
The Slants. Oh, that's hilarious. That is pretty. That's hilarious. I mean,
who
that's
uses
like trolling.
Who uses that as a disparaging remark?
Stupid slants.
That's actually. When I first heard about that story, that was quite literally the first time I ever heard of the slants being used as a derogatory remark.
Yeah, and be like, oh, well, I guess I should start using that now.
Stupid slants. People always use words like gook.
So I guess if the Strokes had tried to trademark their name right now, that'd be discriminatory against old people.
Oriental.
Alright, keep going.
Sorry. Nobody caught that. Anyway, so back to the net neutrality topic.
Net neutrality, yeah.
You're saying that that internet service providers shouldn't be allowed to change up their model based on what they think is going to be the best for their customers and their own bottom line. They should have to provide a one-size-fits-all service because that's what's going to help you out the most. What's going to help you out? You don't care about what's going to be better for them.
It's the worst for the customers. They're going to be squeezing more money out of us for a worse service.
Okay, so more money. That's
the problem with monopolies or duopolies, which is what ISPs are right now. There's Comcast, Verizon, Time Warner. Oh, they almost merged Comcast and Time Warner. And luckily the government stepped in and said, no, that's going to create a monopoly.
Yeah.
Well, with a monopoly or a duopoly, you always get worse service and more expense.
And that is right now under net neutrality. Right? That merger that was going to happen was all under net neutrality. That's
I don't see how the two are related.
That's net neutrality. Net neutrality. This is the point Aspie was making earlier. It requires ISPs to have a specific model in which they regulate or in which they provide their service. And for smaller ISPs, they can't make a profit doing that because there's a lot of investment up front to provide the infrastructure to connect people to the internet. But if they have to provide a one-size-fits-all service for everyone and make sure that they can access Netflix the same way they can access their email, they won't be able to make their money back. They won't be able to make their money back.
Make it easier for smaller ISPs to make money because they really don't have to compete all that much. All they have to do is, just charge a slightly lower price.
But they can't charge a slightly lower price because they don't have the existing infrastructure in place yet, and they have to charge a rate that is the one size fits all. They cannot tailor their business model
make a loss for a couple of years. Then that's when they start making money. Well, most businesses operate like that anyway.
Yeah, I understand this, but there's no incentive for them to do that because you've specifically removed the incentive. Smaller ISPs.
The profit motive is still there.
No, smaller ISPs cannot compete with the larger ISPs because the larger ISPs have something that's called dang it, I just had the term in my head. It was what's that called? Same thing the automobile industry benefits from.
Incumbency?
No, mass
name recognition?
I had it in my head and I lost it. Where they benefit by having a massive audience, right? They have a massive user base, and so the cost for each user is lower. Right? What's that called? Mass something.
Mass
you get the point, right? So larger, like Comcast, already has its name brand recognition. It already has the infrastructure in place, and so the cost of providing what it currently provides, they can still make a profit off of that. A new ISP would not be able to reach the same market because even if they charge a slightly lower rate, well, that also reduces the amount of profit they could make every month. It would take them longer for them to pay back their initial investment and start making a profit. And once they start making a profit, they're charging a lower rate than their competitor, and they're providing the same type of service. So they're not making as much money as their competitor.
So why should we allow ISPs to perform a worse service just to allow smaller ISPs to get started?
What? It's not a worse service.
Yes, it is.
It is a competitive service. You are introducing competition to a market that you are complaining about right now.
How does it introduce competition?
Because any model goes. ISPs can run their business however they
net
want.
Neutrality. If they want no competition, they would want to keep net neutrality.
Because they want to make money, right? They want to make more money than they currently make.
No, they'll make more money if they're the only game in town. And if you're right and net neutrality squashes competition, that's perfect for Comcast.
That actually kind of does make sense. So if net neutrality... Well, then why would they want to... Okay. So right now, they've got a stranglehold on the market because of net neutrality, right? Because they can provide the service and they can still make a profit.
The first.
Yeah, maybe that is a problem.
Oh my god! Okay. I'm not going to gloat.
So Google is in favor of net neutrality, but ISPs want to get rid of net neutrality, so that way they can change their business models to fit whatever they need, whatever they want, and whatever they choose, because they want the freedom of running their own business. That would introduce competition to the market because other people would be able to do their own business models, and maybe somebody else will come along and they'll have a business model that is way better than anything else that's currently on the market, and then they would become the top dog and Comcast would lose business to that.
Not in 10 years if net neutrality was repealed.
I'll just say this.
Is it possible they haven't thought that through?
No, it's not possible. They got teams of lawyers. They got teams of accountants and economists. They want to get rid of net neutrality. If we can trust them to do one thing, is they want to make a profit.
Yeah,
they want to make a bigger profit.
So it makes more sense for them to want to get rid of net neutrality because then they can change their business model to whatever is going to make them the most profit. But maybe it might be hubris, but that doesn't seem that's implying motivation to what their intentions are here. So they want to get rid of net neutrality so that way they can run their business the way they choose. So if they get to run their business the way they choose, their competitors can run their own businesses the way they choose. It might be that they think it's worth the gamble because they don't think anybody else can compete with them once net neutrality is removed. So I don't know.
I doubt it. If they want to make profit, they want to make sure that they make a profit.
Yeah. And right now they don't have that.
And according to your model, net neutrality suppresses absolutely competition.
Yes.
So that would be perfect for them. But no. Net neutrality costs Comcast.
Okay, so
the potential profit that they could make.
Okay, so it squashes competition,
well,
but it also restricts them. So it's not just a squash of competition. Like if you look at if you look at other industries,
it's like having a 5% loss versus a risk of a 80% loss.
Well, how do you know they would see that loss? That requires somebody being able to outcompete them. It's so another industry where this sort of thing happens. Taxi cab industry, right? Taxi cabs, you have to get a license in order to be a taxi cab. And so they get their license, and they're officially licensed company. They can run their business however they want. Taxi cabs aren't considered a utility. But they want laws in place making sure that anybody else who joins that industry has to follow the same process and has to get a license. So then when Uber came along, they hated Uber, and they're trying to institute all these policies to block Uber from joining into that market. But they didn't want to institute policies that would put any further restrictions on them other than the license. It's not like they were saying, we should have this blanket rule that all taxi cabs have to have these kinds of safety requirements, because that would cost them as well as the Ubers and things like that. So I think that's the difference between a monopoly created by the government versus restrictions that have a side effect of creating a, not necessarily a monopoly, but a barrier to entry for that industry. Because that barrier to entry is applied on the big name ISPs right now. But they can afford to cover the cost.
There's another thing about net neutrality. If we didn't have net neutrality, ISPs, would be able to decide, can discriminate against, certain websites. So if we have a very liberal left-wing site like pretty much anything owned by Google, ISPs can charge them a higher or lower price if they agree or disagree, while some other right-wing sites, or far right-wing, like the Daily Stormer, the ISPs can, charge them insanely high rates,
or just
for the sole purpose of, driving them underground.
I don't know if I would call them Stormfront far right in that respect. I mean, when I think of far right, I think of libertarians who believe in a free market society and not, these people are more or less, their idea on race might be pretty right wing, but their idea on the market and so on and so forth and government power is not right wing at all.
Well, their ideas on
there's two different flavors of right wing. There's the authoritarian and there's the libertarian. You're thinking of the libertarian right wing. The Daily Stormer and that ilk, they're very much authoritarian right wing. They're literally just the right-wing versions of the SJWs that we're all dealing with right now.
Well, the very fact that they put identity over everything else, I think, excludes them from the right wing. So I would think, in my mind, they are the far right side of the left.
Okay.
That doesn't make any sense.
Okay, I'll admit that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, they are right-wing. They're just authoritarian right-wing. We can all agree that authoritarianism is bad.
Okay,
sure.
I want to bring
Except
up,
for when you want government control over the internet, and then it's good.
What? I didn't hear you. I lost you for a second.
Okay, well, I actually wanted to touch up upon something. It is a bit vague when people talk about the far right. When I think of far right, I think like neoliberalism. I mean, if you want to refer to the Nazis, the white nationalists, because this is what the left tells me. They refer to the far right as like... Huh? Okay.
Right back.
When I hear people refer to the far right, certain leftists will say, "Oh, we're referring to the Nazis, white nationalists, the authoritarian right, and fascists." Which I do definitely fascism is not an oxymoron, but that's another discussion for another time. And simply put, I do believe that I mean, it is a bit vague, so I tend not to use the term far right. I do think it's more accurate to just say the hard right, because you could be referring to either the libertarian or authoritarian right, just like when you use hard left, libertarian, authoritarian.
Right. This is a side conversation, so let's get to the point that Ham was making.
I just want to add that well, what I consider far right and far left is they're the authoritarian side of those spectrums. Just being left and right there, you're almost always, much more libertarian.
Yeah.
I recently retook the political compass test, and I kind of noticed that I've drifted a little further to the left, but I've drifted way more to the libertarian side.
Yep, and HUMAne's a right-wing libertarian, so you two are going to definitely disagree on a few things.
Okay.
But anyway,
we probably disagree on some things, but when it comes to
everything.
individual freedoms, we probably agree more so.
Yeah.
Well,
like free speech and whatnot. I assume you're a free speech absolutist, right?
I've had it with this. I'm reading about the Lanham Act right now. People think, oh, we need to protect the feelings of minorities. They don't need their feelings protected. They're not these little fragile creatures.
Can you send me the link to that? Send me the link to that.
It's just look up Mattal versus Hum. I'll just put the link in the description bar so you can read. It's a long and very complicated case.
I'll look over it later.
I think yeah.
Okay, but as you're saying, HUMAne on net. Wait, who was it?
He was asking me if I was a free speech absolutist, and I would say yes, I'm a free speech absolutist. Yep. I am a freedom absolutist, and I would say any restriction on somebody's freedom to do what they would voluntarily do, that is a huge problem in my mind. Which I think this net neutrality thing is telling somebody, even though you want to do this, you can't do this.
Well, I don't consider ISPs like Comcast, Time Warner, or Verizon to be individuals. I don't believe that they are entitled to individual rights. They are collective organizations.
Oh my God!
Okay, so hang on. So individuals have rights, but when individuals join together into a group, they lose those rights.
That group doesn't have rights.
So by associating in a group, you lose rights. Is that?
No, the group does not have rights, but the individuals in that group have rights.
How does that work?
It works the same way as the government works.
I want to bring up, actually, I had a live debate with Ham not too long ago this evening about whether or not...
Literally like an hour ago.
Yeah, literally about an hour ago. We had a live debate, discussion about whether or not private businesses have the right to decide who they serve and who they don't. And he used that same type of argument that their businesses are a collective and they should not have the right.
Don't have rights. So what people should do is stop making businesses and just make one-man operations, and then they have all rights. They wouldn't lose any rights in the process. But the second you add a second person to your company,
you're missing the entire point. Okay, collective rights. Let's say, how do we? Private businesses and governments do not have group rights or collective rights the same way that the white race doesn't have the right to oppress other people.
Well, that's because individuals don't have the right to oppress other people.
You know what I mean?
As an individual, I do not have the right to oppress anybody. So if I get a group of individuals, we still don't have the right to oppress anybody. But I, as an individual, do have the right to freedom of speech. So if I join a group of 100 other people, I can still have the freedom of speech, and anybody in that group of 100 people can have freedom of speech, and we can all voice our opinions with the same voice without losing that freedom of speech. But you seem to think that when we join up as a group, we lose certain rights when we act as a single unit, as opposed to individually.
You're forming an organization, and you're trying to impose. You're trying to give that organization as in individual's rights, as if Google was an individual.
It's a collection of individuals, so it doesn't lose. It should have all of the same rights that an individual has.
The white race is a collection of individuals. The government is a collection of individuals.
So the white race together as a group still has freedom of speech. It didn't lose that. The white race as a group does not lose the right to life. The white race as a group does not lose the right to freedom of mobility.
I think you're missing what I'm trying to say.
You're trying to say they don't get any additional rights, which I'm agreeing with.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
All right, so
it's
yeah.
Okay, let's say I have to go in like a minute, but I just want to say this one last thing. You and I, we have the right to free speech, but a company does not have the right to free speech in the way that, you know, they can't say, hey, smoking is cool, or look how good tasting these cigarettes are, or something like that.
So I own my own company. It's an LLC. I'm the sole proprietor of that company.
Okay, I gotta go. Bye.
All right, I just want to. Yeah, so I'm the sole proprietor. I'm the sole employee. I'm the only person who works there. Apparently, I can say whatever I want on my podcast, but as the only person in my company, I'm not allowed to say what I want to say because I lose my rights. If I hire an employee, then I lose my rights according to his
logic.
I don't get.
Yeah, I don't know, but okay, so
I don't get that guy at all. But he did bring up one good point.
Yeah, he did make a few good points. There were a few interesting points you struck, and then if you two do have that discussion about the existence of God, that'll be a fun one to look to hear the arguments about that.
Not looking forward to it, but
Aspie, I think he sounds like the type of guy that'd look forward to arguing about that all day.
No, I mean I enjoy arguing that and discussing that topic, but I don't look forward to arguing with Ham specifically.
Ham is I'm just gonna say he's a jackass.
Like in the first debate, you made an absolute sandwich of that guy.
Me?
No.
Ham same. Oh, I was like kind of.
Oh yeah.
You made an absolute. You baked him. He got murked. He even said himself that he did horrible on that first debate. The second debate, he didn't really say anything about. And simply put, I'm just neutral on net neutrality, like I said earlier, because we've had this shit for years of people saying, "Oh my God, we might lose net neutrality. We might lose net neutrality," and they just and I just stopped giving zero. I just gave 0 fucks. Yeah. 0, because I just realized, you know what? You just can't worry anymore. There's some things it's like I just can't worry about anymore. I don't know. I guess I'm just I don't know what that put me as, but whatever. Aspie summed it up perfectly. It's just a bunch of screeching, and it's like I think discussions like these are important. I guess this isn't necessarily no more just a net neutrality discussion, because we did get way into like healthcare, but I felt like that was somewhat related to the topic at hand.
Yeah, because it's what is a utility versus what is a private industry.
Oh my God! And it was that debate I had with Ham not even an hour and a half ago, I think it was, or I don't remember when this evening it was, but it was an absolute it was great. The debate was only 30 minutes because it's like we were just gonna go in circles, because it's like my argument was the private business has every right to decide who they serve and who they don't. For instance, the person who is, I would not force a Jewish baker to bake a Nazi cake. Then Ham replies, if it had like swastikas on it, he understands. But if it's just a regular cake, then he should still be served. And it's like, no. Like, and it just, I was like, where did he get this from? And my logic was that you're not entitled to someone's time, their money, their energy. Sure, they do try and put that out there for the money, but if they say no, you are acting entitled. Entitled by trying to decide who they serve and who they don't. Well, it's like that's justified.
That kind of ties into something that's been in the news recently. I don't know if you're familiar with this August Ames issue, right? So she's a porn star who committed suicide, and it was something to do with she did not want to do a sex scene with somebody who had been in, was either, I don't remember if the guy was gay in real life or had done gay sex scenes in the past. And so people were like, they started hounding her for being homophobic and all that sort of thing. So the point is, and how this relates to the conversation is, she was selling a service for money, right? She was selling porn scenes and all that sort for money. And they are telling her that she has to, hey, you're selling your body for money, you have to have sex with somebody who is either gay or is bisexual. And you're like, or has done gay sex scenes in previous... At what point does she get to decide, wait, no, that's not something I want to sell, that I want to be paid to do?
Fuck, I should have used that in the debate.
What a jerk, no pun intended.
Yeah. Oh, terrible. Yeah. And so,
I mean, he told her to commit suicide.
Yeah, apparently there's other emotional and psychological issues at play.
It was a snuff film.
Oh, fuck.
Oh my god.
Yes,
that in
but
live debate, because then he would have been really fucked. Because it's like, well, no pun intended. Because at this point, we go into what consent is, and he would look terrible.
Yeah, it's like her business is selling her sex, and she's saying, no, I'm not going to sell my sex for that particular, for that instance, that scene, that film, or whatever. She has every right to do that. Yet for some reason,
she has every right to she has every right to decide who she will bang for her buck.
Yeah. I wonder how many porn puns we're gonna be able to make before the stream is out.
I have no idea.
But it's the same principle at play, right?
Yeah. These jokes just keep coming.
Yeah.
There was a comment on Facebook about when this whole thing broke, and it's like, boners at half-mast today, guys.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so I had no idea who she was before this, so I had to do lots of research last night.
I had to as well.
Yeah. Shallow throat and respect.
Oh Jesus, we're terrible. But
but the principle is the same. It's like, okay, that is her business. So what people wanted her to do is essentially the same thing as hey, you've got a bakery, you're selling your service. Oh, you have to accept everybody who is trying to pay you money for your service.
Yeah. As a result,
the thing is that religion is involved in this, and if a girl's a porn star, I don't think religion is involved with the
but the reasons for doing something,
unless they're having sex on an altar.
Yeah. but her reasons for not wanting to do that particular scene and for not wanting to sell her sex in that instance, her reasoning for doing so doesn't matter. What matters is the principle is that she doesn't have to do what she doesn't want to do, which is the same instance of if I truly own my own business and I don't want to have somebody as my customer for whatever reason, I shouldn't have to. It doesn't matter what my reasoning could be that I suspect them to be an alien trying to take over, an alien lizard person trying to take over the world, and I don't want to give them a cake. It doesn't matter if my reasoning is batshit insane. What matters is this is my stuff and it's my business and I'm selling it. I should be able to run it the way that I want.
Yeah, and he was pulling the slippery slope argument of, what about these other nations? And in my head, I'm like, I don't give a fuck about these other nations. Like, he brings up Saudi Arabia, and it's like, bruh, atheists and people that are not like them, and anyone who is not either like LGBT people and atheists, your rights are pretty much fucked. It's a death penalty offense to be either of those things or both. In the United States, your rights are protected under the law, and it is illegal to. And he was all like, okay, why can't we discriminate against who we hire? And it's like, there's already laws in place there, and it is illegal to fire somebody just on the basis of any arbitrary identity trait you put out. And he kept going back to this, and within like the first 30 minutes, I'm like, okay, we're just gonna keep going in circles, so we just wrapped it up there.
Yeah. So I think it's kind of weird. So going back to my answer, so say I run a bakery and I don't want to sell to you because I think you are a lizard person trying to take over the world. Well, you're going to tell people like, dude, this guy's out of his mind. And customers are going to be like, you know what, I used to shop there, but if that's what this guy is thinking, I'm going to take my business elsewhere. And so that's going to cost me money in the long run. But it's kind of funny that me as a business owner, according to all these people, are saying I should have to sell to the person I think is a lizard man because I shouldn't be able to refuse him based on my own religious beliefs or whatever. But my customers, they aren't required to shop at my store and give me business. True. They can go elsewhere. So why is it that I don't have a choice but they would? Isn't that the same sort of thing? I'm basically boycotting a particular customer or a particular type of customer, and previous customers are like, oh, no, I'm going to boycott that store. Why is it that customers can boycott a company, but companies can't boycott potential customers?
True. That's true. Yeah.
That seems weird.
Yep. All right, I think we've covered all the bases. I don't know what else to bring up about net neutrality.
Well, that does tie into net neutrality because that's the principle that I'm trying to get at. It's their business, and if they want to change how they do their business, they should be allowed to.
They have the right to do. Yeah. All right. So that makes sense. Either way, no matter the arguments we propose or the positions we hold, it will go one way or another on net neutrality on, I think, the 14th of December. Am I correct? December 14th?
Yes, yeah, December 14th, I think. Or it might be the 15th, but it's somewhere around there.
Either way, within a week, we'll find out whether or not we keep our net neutrality. If we end up losing it, I'll probably do one more stream and be like, this is our final stream, guys, before it finally takes effect on whether if we lose it. If we keep it, then it'll be just business as usual.
If we lose it, I am of the impression that it will still be business as usual. And if anything, I think over the next couple of years...
Before it takes effect, what I'm saying.
Yeah. If anything, over the course of the next few years, our prices for internet will probably end up going down because there'll be more competition in the market. But...
Mm-hmm. And I don't mind free market capitalism. I don't mind that, to be honest. So I think, unless there's any other points we've not covered, I think we've thoroughly covered it. And we also got to talk about healthcare. So we got to knock out a few topics tonight.
Well, I don't think we got too involved in the healthcare because that was, unfortunately, just me and Ham going back and forth on that topic. But that is a topic we need to address more in depth.
Yeah, and I think I'll cut that out and put it as its own little topic on healthcare. If anyone wants to re-upload this, because I know Joss Manuel and HUMANE's been streaming this whole thing on his channel. And yeah, this was a pretty interesting discussion to hear because I'm mostly neutral, so I wanted to hear everyone else's perspective. Aspie, I liked the points he had raised. Wolf, I guess he got to listen to the. Because he did display his position, but he sounded mostly neutral on it.
Yeah, it was kind of because when I was listening to Humane Minds, and then I was listening to Cult of Ham, it was like it was kind of like they were bringing up points that I hadn't really considered before.
Yeah, that's kind of how I went about it. And I've discussed topics with him before, like I discussed capitalism with him back in the day, which I didn't know. Like earlier this year, and I didn't know he was actually in favor of a mixed market economy, economy.
Yeah, that's kind of where I lean.
Yeah, he's actually to the left of you. Like he's maybe a little bit further to the left than you are, and a little more libertarian than you are. I used to be on the left myself, but not very hard left.
Yeah, well, I retook the.
Hey, we're done talking about the porn thing.
What did I miss from the port? Can you recap? I went to make myself a cup of coffee and.
Oh, you weren't even listening to when you were talking about porn. I brought up the August Ames issue.
Yeah, and we were using the analogy of she's selling a service and she has every right to decide who her service will go to. So she didn't want to do a sex scene with a guy who had done sex scenes with men in the past, and people were autistically screeching, "Ree, homophobe, ree!" And she got hate mobbed to death. And
well,
hey, can I say something? Crap, I forgot I was gonna say. You know, this is weird. You know what's weird? Pornography is legal, but prostitution isn't.
True, and I think that's a stream about libertarianism for another time, because I think that does tie into that. So we need to set up a list of what topics we'll go through, unless there's like a breaking story of, oh, this might affect our country or other countries. And, I think we should set up like an official list and.
Yeah, I mean the net neutrality thing. Like, if somebody's like let's say that someone can pay like someone chooses like a lower level where their bandwidth is not as wide. Like, it's I don't know. It's kind of unfair that like they could be watching the Pornhub and then like it starts buffering and pausing, and then it pauses at the wrong time, and then you're not at the wrong part of it. That'd be a bit of a that's rather unjust.
I remember you talked about that on yesterday's stream, and that was funny as hell. I'm like, you might have a point there. Actually, you do have a point. What am I saying? You have a point there. But anyway,
did anybody make it through No Net November? I'm joking.
There was this debate I was watching. This dude sounded like he went through all of November without nutting, and he's like a few days into December, and he's forgotten. Bruh, it's December.
Yeah, that was that stupid cunt that fucking that Owen was debating, and he kept like cutting, and he was an angry guy. And I just wanted to like say, I just said in the chat like dude, like November's over. You should have released your seed before you did this stream with Owen. Maybe you wouldn't be such a cunt.
Oh my god, it was horrible. Like, he's trying to reply to this dude. This dude was saying, oh, there's evidence capitalism's done good for the world. And well, I agree with the dude on capitalism, but he said he didn't have a problem with communism, I think. Boy, he would not let him get a word in. The dude got muted twice, and then he says, we're done. The host of the debate says, we're done. But the dude wouldn't leave, so he had to eject him. I'm like, oh my god. I used to have really severe anger problems when I was younger. I could feel my impatience and my natural bitchiness come to the surface that day.
All right.
But yeah, okay. So I think this is where I mean, unless we have anything else related to net neutrality, we want to go over.
Sounds like you're wrapping it up. So I just.
I also heard another argument by net neutrality is that it'll help privacy because the government won't be able to watch your internet service as much as it used to, and that Twitter.
Yeah, I remember seeing a few people talk about that, and they would talk about, when you buy a computer, because my father himself was worried about buying a computer because he was afraid the webcam, the government, he's I wouldn't say an anarchist or anything, but probably maybe a minarchist, but he was worried that the microphone that's built into his laptop could record, and the webcam could as well, but I think there's already things a way you could disable the webcam.
It's been proven that can actually happen, that there has been stories of hackers that have been able to hack into people's webcams and watch people do stuff. Like, I remember Bering talked about this one guy who says hacker was trying to blackmail him into giving him money because he said with his webcam he had caught a picture of him, jacking off, and the hacker was threatening to use it against him, and he thought he was joking, but then he sent him the actual video, and then he's all like, oh, great. That's problems like that.
Well, I do know of a way you can, at least with the webcam. I don't know about microphones, but I think with some computers you have the ability to disable the webcam, or if you have an external webcam. Mine's internal, so that's a bit of a quality issue. Yeah. And you could just, like with Zach's webcam, it's an external webcam. You could just put something in front of it to block it, or 3 layers of black electrical tape or something.
Or you can just unplug it. I mean, that's what I do.
Well, if it's an internal one, you can't unplug it.
Yeah, if it's internal, you can't. So you just put a Post-it note or something over it. Yeah, duct tape or tape over it.
Something so they can't see through it.
Yeah, there's pictures of Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook where he's posing in Facebook's office or whatever and all the computers in the background, they all have Post-it notes over the cameras and the microphones on their computers.
Jesus.
Because they know what people are doing, and they're like, we don't want it to happen to us.
Yeah, well, I mean, in an office, you shouldn't be doing anything that you wouldn't want people
No, but it's...
You know what? Yeah. I'm not going to judge. But
it's the fact that he's at Facebook offices, and they know to put stuff over the cameras because they could be used. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's hacking.
I think there was one topic that you touched upon that's like worth when you're sort of bringing up education and like putting funding into education or whatever and whatever, like
because we're talking
it's
about
sort
politics,
of like that whole topic in itself is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
That's what S-Man and I've been sort of thinking of putting on like sort of later on as kind of,
and I've been thinking about having HUMANE on. Maybe I think I'll chat with Lonely Wolf in one stream about education, and then I guess I'll have you both come on for the idea of whether or not we privatize education.
Yeah. So, because we've talked about education on this channel. We had 2 separate streams on it, so.
Yeah, and I think it'll be fairly, I had a 3-hour, me and HUMANE solve the world's problems type stream, and we went over a whole host of topics, and we talked about whether or not to privatize education. I'm actually kind of convinced in favor of that. And the problem is when you bring that up with people, they just go to straw man as quick as possible. Like, they don't even try to address the point. They're just going to straw man you so fast. It's like, oh, it's like I'll go get the hat for that straw man they're going to build.
Yeah, it's like the acting as though the teachers have to, you know, like if I had to take a math lesson, I'd be like, okay, this math lesson was sponsored by Pepsi, so please buy one like after this lesson. And it's like,
well, you do know that sponsors do, or corporations do sponsor public schools, and the way they do it is
that happens a lot.
Yeah, what they'll do is they'll provide like Pepsi will just give their products to the school and be like, hey, here's we provided all of the soda for your party or for your graduation event or whatever. That's how they do it currently. I don't understand why people are like, oh, well, they're going to teach them about how McDonald's is the best corporation in the world. I'm like, that's bad for business.
No, because all like your English lesson, like you have to write a poem about eating, like to use like the poetic devices like imagery and like to describe like eating chicken nuggets.
Yeah,
like, you have to write a poem about chicken nuggets, and then like your and then your math lesson, it's like it's a trigonometry. It's like you know it's like the Pepsi can casts a shadow of 45 degrees and like you know and it's like a trigonometry problem. So like you know how high is the can?
or for sex ed, they have Pornhub sponsor their sex education.
Actually, I don't have a problem with that. That can't be worse than what they're already doing. I mean,
oh my god, they're so
cringy. At least kids might learn something about it.
Yeah, I mean they are teaching us about abstinence, all that shit, but it sounds a bit unrealistic to expect a bunch of hormone-ridden people to make the right decision. But you know what? That's their problem.
Yeah,
I did it.
Teach teens learn how to use fucking condoms too, please.
Yeah, that's what it's strongly advising, and I agree. I strongly agree. They're also teaching us about the effects it has on your life to wreck your life for children. So I'm more than thoroughly convinced that, yeah, I think abstinence is not a bad idea. Okay, so do we have anything else we want to bring up on this net neutrality discussion, or do you guys feel okay with what you said?
Yeah, I think we covered everything. I don't
know what else.
I mean, I was thoroughly entertained.
Yeah, you got some entertainment to see HUMANE risk taking his microphone and jamming his eyes with it in frustration, like Cult Ham was saying.
Yeah, I was like, it was kind of like that's why I can't watch.
There's good arguments on both sides.
Yeah, and this is the most packed stream I've had ever. Actually, like we had 8 out of 10 required for this to be a full hangout. Which was pretty cool out of the whole show.
Yeah, and my beanie my new beanie starting to take shape. It's like I've done like 6 rows or something.
I found a beanie of mine I have not worn in a while, and I thought it was gone. So my day actually was made to be okay today. So beanies for life, man. I think this is where we'll finally call this a show. But I would like to think, Oh, go ahead.
I just want to say next week we will be talking about minimum wage. So that is the topic. So we do have that lined up.
Yeah, I want to bring on Mjolnir Man and Cult of Ham for that one because Cult of Ham is very strong about it. Mjolnir Man made a video saying we shouldn't raise the minimum wage. He got featured on the Drunken Peasants for that. I think it'll be a very interesting conversation because they kind of they have some strong opinions on it.
Okay.
I'll have to set up my webcam like over a piece of paper or something like that and draw you the demand and supply curves or whatever.
All right, so yeah, thank you, Lonely Wolf, for joining me. Thank you, Aspie, for joining me. Thank you, HUMANE, for joining me. And thank you, Baphomet, for hardly saying anything, but joining nonetheless. Yep. As always, it was good streaming with you all. And as always, what's so funny about a woman with a penis? Till next time.
All right, that's a good way to end it.
Yeah. I had